The CBC's Nick Srnkovic is at LaGuardia Airport. He is a meteorologist and a pilot. Nick, first of all, a couple of things here that are of note. One is that the Port Authority, Airport Authority, saying that that particular runway was plowed and that the pilots who had landed there before had good braking action. So what does that tell you about what happened here?
Well, the ultimate decision for any pilot to make a landing, it really comes down to them. They'll take that information into consideration. So the pilots that were coming in on this particular airplane, Delta 1086, they would have heard that information, and they likely would have been given that information from the tower. At least they would have heard it over the radio, and they would have taken that into consideration. As a pilot, I mean, if you're coming in and other aircraft of similar type or similar weight are going in, generally, and especially at this level of aviation, you'll take them at their word for it. So there isn't a restriction per se on the pilots that if the braking action was good or poor or whatever, but you use that as an advisory to decide whether you choose to make that landing.
Okay, you see the weather conditions there at the moment. What do you think as a pilot?
Well, they've actually improved. Right now, the weather conditions are a little bit better than what they were earlier. It was a little windier, and the visibility was down as well. At the time, weather conditions were about 1/4 of a mile, and then you have something called runway visual range, or RVR. That was about 2,600 feet, give or take a couple hundred feet. That being said, that's pretty close to the limit of visibility for that particular approach. It's totally legal, and it was totally within limits, and as you saw, other airplanes had made it in. However, it was close to the limit, so it would have been a challenging approach. Not impossible, but it would have been challenging.
Might there have been a problem with the skid system, or the fact that others landed there moments before? Would the anti-skid system seem to be working fine?
Well, that's something that we're going to have to wait to hear from the NTSB, because, I mean, really, they're going to have to look at the flight data recorder. They'll have to interview the pilots, the passengers, and everybody else to decide exactly what was going on. Couple things I will mention to you, Carol. By law, for large aircraft like this, whatever the given landing distance is, that can only be 60% of the actual landing distance available. So, to sort of dispel any myths here, it's not like the airplane is landing on the minimum amount of runway. There is a factor in there built into the regs for this sort of thing. Now, what we're hearing, of course, is that the aircraft had sort of veered off the side of the runway. Why that happened really is going to come out in the investigation. There could have been a brake problem. There could have been pilot error. There could have been surface contamination that we weren't aware of. I mean, it is possible that there was a buildup of slush in one particular area and the airplane happened to hit that. We don't know, and that would all be speculation at this point, but it's something that'll come out in the investigation.
The Port Authority there's one more point I want to bring up with you, and that's when the Port Authority spokesperson said the chutes did not deploy. What does that tell you?
Well, I'm not sure why they wouldn't have deployed on this particular aircraft. They have to be armed in order for them to deploy. The way the passengers were actually exiting off the airplane, they were maybe about 5 feet off the ground when they slid off of the wing itself. So why the chutes didn't deploy, I think that's something else that they're going to have to determine. But I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
All right, Nick Srnkovic at LaGuardia Airport.